Hello and welcome to the Cornwall Guide channel. Today I'm looking at some of West Cornwall's most fascinating ancient sites. These are some of the lesser known sites in West Cornwall. And today we're starting with Lanyon Quoit, which is located a couple of miles just outside of Penzance. Mulfra Quoit is a typical Cornish dolmen, which would have originally formed an inner stone burial chamber under a mound of earth. The 5-ton, 3-metre wide capstone now lies at a 45-degree angle after it was reputedly dislodged during a mighty thunderstorm in 1752. This version of events is however contradicted by the Victorian antiquarian Ballowall, who stated that his great-grandfather had recorded the site in the same state as far back as 1749. More likely explanation is that the capstone slipped after one of the supporting stones was removed. Today there are only 3 supporting stones, whereas it is likely there would have been a 4th to complete the chamber, as at Lanyon Quoit. The next stop are a couple of sites near Carn Euny, which is just to the east of St Just. The Carn is completely natural, but its craggy form lends itself to a number of myths and legends, best known of which include the devil himself. Standing under the gaze of Carn Euny are what remains of a complex of perhaps 3 stone circles. Today, all that remains is the Tregeseal East stone circle. It is certain there was a further circle in the next field to the west. However, in 1961, the farmer who owned the field took it upon himself to remove the stones which had stood there for over 4,000 years so he could plough it. What remains of the Tregeseal stone circles has been much restored over the centuries. The earliest records of the circle suggest several of the stones had fallen and some had been removed. Today the circle comprises of 19 stones, and it is thought that there are 2 missing stones. The circle at Tregeseal is just part of a larger ritual complex, much like that found over at Ballowall, centred around the Merry Maidens, and located just across the common are 5 hold stones. As with other hold stones, their purpose is somewhat of a mystery. It is difficult to read any significance into the positions of these stones, as they have been re-erected within living memory, possibly not exactly as originally placed. Carn Euny is one of the best preserved Iron Age villages in the southwest, with 9 visible hut foundations and a spectacular 20-metre fugu. The name fugu derives from the Cornish fugu, meaning cave. Little evidence as to the purpose of these fugus has ever been discovered, although their painstaking construction suggests that they were of great value to the community. The large and well-preserved tunnel at Carn Euny is the most important structure on the site, running just below the surface of the ground and roofed with massive granite slabs. A side passage leads to a round stone chamber with a collapsed roof, which is also known as the beehive chamber. Our next site is set on the cliff tops of Carn Euny, which overlooks the dramatic headland of Cape Cornwall. The Ballowall entrance tomb is special because it is in fact a complex of barrows and cists from different periods, spanning the Neolithic and Bronze Ages. For many years the barrow was buried under mining rubble and was to some extent reshaped when it was restored by Ballowall in the 19th century. The elongated main burial chamber is one of the largest in Penwith and lies within a circular moat constructed of dry stone wall. The lofty and exposed location is typical of these monuments, which would have been used for both burial and ritual, and the barrow entrance faces southwest towards the setting sun. Some say that Chysauster's 8 stone dwellings represent the earliest identifiable village street in England. The dwellings, which are often called courtyard houses, were probably built and occupied between 100 BC and 400 AD by members of the Demoni tribe. Courtyard houses consist of a circular walled enclosure with small chambers leading off from it. Ruins such as these are only found on the Land's End Peninsula and the Isles of Scilly. The oval-shaped houses were around 28 metres long with 3-metre high walls. The chambers would have had thatched roofs, while the central courtyard would have been open to the sky. Chysauster is situated about 3 miles north of Penzance on the south-west facing slopes of a shallow valley, and it is suggested that the settlement was primarily agricultural. The remains of a fugu can be seen to the southwest of the village, although it has suffered from unsympathetic renovation and is nowhere near as impressive as the fugu at Carn Euny. Situated just a stone's throw from the famous Merry Maidens of Bowley is Tregiffian burial chamber. This early Bronze Age barrow or entrance grave has numerous interesting features and is also only one of 3 such sites in Cornwall. One highly unusual feature of the barrow is a stone at the front of the chamber, which is highly decorated with both circular and elongated cup mark hollows. Numbering 25 in total, it has been speculated that the 12-13 combination is directly connected to the cycles of the moon. Such significance was attributed to this stone that the original was removed to the safety of the Royal Cornwall Museum in Truro, and that which we see in situ is actually a cast replica. As mentioned, the Merry Maidens are located just along the road from Tregiffian. Probably the best known stone circle in Cornwall, the 19 stones are remarkably evenly spaced and form a near perfect circle. This is Zennor Quoit, which sits on the high moorland to the south of the village. The quoit is a substantial and particularly fine example of a portal dolmen with its massive granite slabs. There are drawings from the 1760s of the quoit before its collapse, when it must have been even more impressive. But as with others, time and local farmers have taken their toll. The demise of the tomb began sometime during the early 1800s. It is thought that one of the supporting stones was dislodged, and soon after the enormous weight of the capstone broke the rock and slid to the ground, leaving it at the angle we see today. In 1861, the quoit was almost completely destroyed by a local farmer who fancied the stone to break up and build a cowshed. It was only the intervention of the local vicar and subsequent bribe of 5 shillings that saved the site. Just a short walk from Zennor Quoit is Sperris Quoit. This ruined megalithic burial chamber is somewhat underwhelming and a shadow of its former self. Dating as far back as 7,000 years, it's sad that it was as recently as the 1800s that the site was ransacked for its stones,